Flight 771 began its journey in Johannesburg, one of Africa's busiest airports. The flight departed around 9:45 p.m. local time on May 11th, carrying passengers from across southern Africa and beyond, many of them Dutch tourists returning from vacations in South Africa, along with Libyans heading home and travelers connecting through Tripoli to reach Europe and other destinations. The aircraft assigned to this route was an Airbus A330-202, a wide-body twin-engine jet known for its reliability and long-range capabilities. This particular plane, registration number 5A-ONG, was delivered in September 2009, making it less than a year old at the time of the flight. It had undergone regular maintenance checks and was considered to be in excellent condition. The aircraft could carry up to 230 passengers, though Flight 771 was lightly loaded with 104 people on board. The captain of Flight 771 was a 57-year-old Libyan pilot with over 17,000 hours of flying experience. His first officer was also experienced, with thousands of hours in the cockpit. Both men were considered skilled professionals who had flown this route many times before. Everything about this flight appeared routine. The flight took off from Johannesburg on schedule. The journey to Tripoli would cover approximately 3,400 miles and take around 8.5 hours. For most of the flight, everything proceeded normally. The plane climbed to its cruising altitude of around 37,000 feet. Passengers ate their meals, watched movies, read books, or tried to sleep. The Airbus A330 flew north across Africa through the night. As dawn broke over North Africa, the plane began its descent toward Tripoli. The pilots started their approach procedures, communicating with the control tower at Tripoli International Airport. At approximately 5:50 a.m. local time, Flight 771 was cleared for its final approach to runway 09 at Tripoli International Airport. The weather conditions were marginal, with patches of mist and low clouds, though visibility was reported as adequate. Everything seemed set for a normal landing. The passengers fastened their seatbelts. Some looked out the windows, catching their first glimpse of Tripoli in the early morning light. But in the cockpit, something was wrong. The pilots were having difficulty during the non-precision approach. The plane had descended below the minimum descent altitude without visual reference to the runway. GPWAS warnings activated and a late go-around was initiated. But due to somatographic illusion from the acceleration, the pilots applied nose-down inputs, causing the aircraft to lose altitude rapidly. At 6:01 a.m., the Airbus A330 slammed into the ground about 1,200 meters short of the runway. The impact was catastrophic. The plane hit the earth with tremendous force, traveling at a speed far too fast for landing. The massive aircraft shattered on impact, breaking into several large pieces. The fuel tanks ruptured and fires erupted across the site. The scene was visible for miles around. Airport workers and people in nearby neighborhoods heard the thunderous boom and saw the column of black smoke rising from the crash site. Emergency vehicles at the airport immediately raced toward the burning wreckage. Fire trucks, ambulances, and rescue crews arrived within minutes, but the scene they found was beyond horrific. The airplane had essentially disintegrated. Large sections of the fuselage were scattered across a wide area. It was immediately clear to rescuers that this was a mass casualty event. Rescue workers spread out across the debris field, searching desperately for survivors. They found none. The impact had been too violent, the fires too intense. As they moved through the wreckage, checking bodies and clearing debris, the reality set in. Everyone on board appeared to have been killed instantly. And there, in the twisted metal and debris, they found him. It was Ruben van Assouw, the 9-year-old Dutch boy who had been traveling with his family. Against all odds, he had survived the crash. Rescuers carefully extracted him from the wreckage. He had suffered multiple fractures to his legs and other injuries, but he was conscious and breathing. Paramedics immediately began treating him, stabilizing his injuries before rushing him to a hospital in Tripoli. The rescue of Ruben van Assouw was nothing short of miraculous. Of the 104 people on board Flight 771, he was the only survivor. His parents, Patrick and Trudy van Assouw, and his 11-year-old brother Enzo all perished in the crash. Everyone except this one 9-year-old boy. Meanwhile, investigators arrived at the crash site to determine what had caused this disaster. The Libyan Civil Aviation Authority led the investigation with assistance from Airbus, the aircraft manufacturer, and aviation safety experts from several countries. The black boxes, the flight data recorder, and cockpit voice recorder were quickly located and sent to France for analysis. The investigation took months, but eventually a picture emerged of what happened in those final moments. The flight data recorder showed that the pilots had continued the descent below minimum altitude without visual cues, then initiated a late go-around. During the acceleration, somatographic illusion led to inappropriate nose-down inputs, overriding the climb. The cockpit voice recorder revealed the growing confusion in the cockpit as the situation deteriorated rapidly. Conflicting controls and ignored warnings compounded the issue. In the final seconds, the descent became uncontrollable. The plane struck the ground at high speed. The investigation concluded that the crash was caused by pilot error during the approach and go-around. The crew had failed to properly monitor altitude and respond to warnings. However, investigators also noted that the flight crew had been working extended hours and may have been experiencing fatigue. The overnight flight from Johannesburg, combined with the early morning landing time, meant the pilots had been awake and working for an extended period. The final report made several recommendations to prevent similar accidents in the future. Afriqiyah Airways, the Libyan airline operating the flight, faced intense scrutiny after the disaster. The airline had only been operating since 2001 and had been working to build a reputation as a reliable carrier. The crash of Flight 771 dealt a severe blow to that reputation. The airline implemented new safety procedures and training programs in response to the investigation's findings. The story of Flight 771 is a tragedy of lives cut short by a preventable accident.